So tell me, when did addiction first enter your life? And at the same time, what was it giving you?
Relief,
Mm.
I thought, that very classic numbness
Yes,
and,
yes.
a flood of release from difficult feelings. I just rewatched Trainspotting last night because it's
Mm-hmm.
an anniversary showing, and when I watch it, the very traumatic things that happen to the people in that movie, they move directly to heroin to flood their bodies with release from pain, and so, I think around the age of, well, at 16, I first experienced some drug use, but
Mm-hmm.
by 18, I was like, "This is the way to feel relief. This is the way to release." And I was all about it. I thought, um, suffering is bad. I hate it. And,
Yes.
what you don't see when you step into addiction is that there's another kind of bad. There are all kinds of ki you know, categories of terrible, but that relief and that release, I don't have any trouble at all understanding why people move toward that. But I also think addiction is intergenerational in my case and in many people. I think it traveled before me and
Hmm.
through me, and I get to decide what the story does next.
Yes. And with addiction, when did you hit rock bottom?
I've hit it more than once, and I definitely hit a rock bottom when my daughter died. She was born and died in the same moment. She was stillborn, and that was one. That was a true abyss for me.
Hmm.
And many, many women experience stillbirths and pull up. I did
Yes.
not I did not pull up. Um, um, so, I call it a Persephone journey. I went to Hades and I decided to, come back. And when you're down at the bottom, you get the choice. Do you
Yes.
want to
Yes.
stay there or do you want to come back? And what I have learned in my life is if you choose to ascend and come back, you should look around while you're down there and find something to bring back with you for others.
Wow.
Like that's the task. The task isn't just saving yourself. The task is, what do I see around me that could help somebody else? And
So,
I
so what did you bring,
I
Lydia?
the first time the very first time, um, was probably when I was a teenager, and I literally saw a knife,
Mhm.
and the knife was made of bone, um, and as even as a teenager, I was like, "I'm gonna need this knife. Somebody's gonna need help. I'm gonna need this knife." And so, like, in my imagination, I
Mhm. Mhm.
brought it back so I could help cut people loose from ropes that were pulling
Yes.
down.
Yes.
That was my first experience of it. So now I'm kind of a pro.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. But I want to take you back, like after winning, a major writing award, you were being offered opportunities that many writers, spend their entire lives chasing,
Totally.
but yet you couldn't accept them. So
No.
looking back now, do you think that was, fear, shame, self-protection, or something else?
Yeah, that's a good one too. I do know it had a lot to do with shame. Like, I did not believe I deserved any of that, and so shame was in my way, and it was in my throat. I could feel it. It was like a rock lodged in my throat. Probably some fear, for sure. although I'm sort of relentlessly fearless, which is not necessarily a good thing. It can get you in
Oh,
it can
I,
get you into a
I
lot
would
of
definitely like to be fearless. Believe me, I think it's a good thing.
well, it's more like the things I fear are like, I fear leaving my house every day because the world is so hard for me, but I don't fear standing on the edge of a cliff. So that's
Mhm,
complex,
mhm.
you know?
Yes.
So shame and fear, and I think the something else was if I'd said yes and accepted all that right then, um, I a story about who I was would be sort of placed upon me, and I wasn't ready. Like, I've looked back 100 times, and I wasn't ready. It would have sent me over an edge because I didn't know how to do it, and I wasn't ready, and I had some more healing to do, and, it would have turned out badly. Um,
Do you think like success can be frightening when your identity has been shaped by struggle?
Absolutely, profoundly. In fact, we don't know what to do with it, and it feels like trauma itself. It feels like, "What is this? I think it hurts."
Uh,
And,
it does. It does because it's not familiar, right?
no, no. And then, what you do with it also is a big deal. Um, like, do you turn it into ambition and go for that with everything you've got?
Yeah.
Or do you do something else with it? And this has been an important question for me my entire adult life.
But I didn't ask you. I really wanted to ask you, when did you start writing? And how did it start?
This answer is easy. I started writing when my baby girl died. I went into a little bit of psychosis. Well, I guess you can't go a little bit into I went into psychosis
Cyprus.
and I started living underneath an overpass with other unhoused people, and I was in a psychosis state, and I was grieving, and I was angry, and I was hallucinating. And I started writing in a notebook, little tiny scribbles, like, crazy person writing. Um, but I started writing like unstoppable, obsessively, relentlessly. And eventually I got into counseling and I got some medical help and I got myself back into college. And so I got some structures and some resources and some help. And I took a creative writing class. And it was already coming out of me, like it was coming out of my nose and my ears, but I never wanted to be a writer, so I didn't know what it was. I'm like, "What is this? This stuff is coming out of me. Ah, I'm leaking. My insides are coming out." And I took a creative writing class when I was 25 years old, and the shape of stories helped me organize the trauma of my life. And so they saved my life, which sounds cliche, but is very true for some
It's
of
true.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think people misunderstand about grief?
I think it's still very difficult for many people to understand that it can take a long time. In America,
And a lot of ways, different ways that everyone expresses
yeah, yeah.
the
Grief
grief. Yeah.
grief works its way through each of us completely differently than
Uh,
the person next to you.
mhm.
It takes as long as it takes. It's a process, it doesn't have a perfect end product.
Yes. Yes.
In
Yes. Yes.
America
Yes.
in particular, America is so stupid. Sorry, it's a bad time. Well, it's always been a bad time. We just found it on wrong principles, but anyway, in America, we treat it like a consumer byproduct, like,
Mhm.
bad thing happened to you, go get medicine, fix it, 'kay, you're done. This is asinine. This is
Yes,
not
yes,
even
yes.
human, it's subhuman. So that it's different on everybody, it comes out in thousands of different ways. It takes as long as it takes, and then the last one is, um, you both have to move through it completely alone, and you have to risk touching others,
Mm.
and that's hard.
Yeah, it is. So, you know, I'm just wondering, what was harder, surviving your father? Because, I want you to tell me the story, because eventually he lost his memory, right?
Yeah,
So, was it harder surviving the abuse or meeting the man he became later when his memory disappeared?
that is such a smart question. That is so smart, Anna, because you hit a real fault line that surviving the abuse, is terrible. It's the worst, as anyone who's experienced it knows, but the fact that he lost his memory about what he'd done to us, it disappeared, but he was still there,
It's unbelievable. It's
and he
unbelievable. I was shocked when I heard you say that.
Yeah, yeah, for listeners, my father drowned in the ocean, and I pulled him out and resuscitated him, and he lived, but he lost his memory,
At
and,
what age, Lydia?
um, I was, 24, um, and my sister was 8 years older than that,
Mhm.
and so he lived, but he lost his memory, so then we were left with this docile, kind of sweet, um, soft, curious man who didn't remember what he'd done to us, and we were supposed to take care of him.
It,
Um,
it's really crazy. Like,
and so your question is
yes.
huge because something happened in my brain, and I had to study, like, neurology and biochemistry privately in my own
Mhm,
home
mhm.
for about a decade just to wrap my mind around, well, where did it go? When it
Yes,
when
yes.
that happens, like, 'cause we're still here and we're carrying it in our bodies, where did it go? And I think that's the other part of how I became a writer is, that trauma too put like a seed in me of go keep asking that question. And when I go keep asking that question, stories come out.
Mm, mm. So, did it change, your relationship with him when his memory disappeared?
Yeah, yeah. I used to sit with him and stare at him like, "Are you still in there?" Like, I didn't quite believe the
Mm,
monster was gone.
yes,
So I
yes.
remember looking for it, like, "I'm not buying this." But he was gone, and so I had a kind of relationship with him. I was responsible for getting him care, so we moved him from Florida to Oregon, and he was in an assisted living facility, and I would visit him, and we'd just sit and talk a little bit, you know,
Mhm.
but nothing very deep, and
Yes.
so until he died, that was just for me, that was just a period of you're gonna have to let this story go, and so then I experienced grief about that. Like,
Mm,
if you've been holding on to a story of abuse,
yes, yes.
surviving abuse, and you realize you have to set it down or release it, that's painful.
It is.